Greetings, my good people. I'm here today doing some prospecting on some land. I have a client who's looking to get some land. What I realized about land, a lot of people make lots and lots of mistakes when it comes to buying land, just because they did not do their due diligence. Land could be very profitable, but you have to be very technical about it in order that you do the right things. So I'm going to give you some tips here today on what to do and what not to do when you're buying a piece of property, especially land. First law, never get emotional. Once you do your due diligence, if it's not working, it's not adding up, it's not adding up. If the numbers are not adding up, it is not adding up. Don't say, oh, but what if we do this? No. Do not get emotional. Move on to the next. You will always find a better property. Number two, make sure you ask the seller to provide the most recent survey they did for that land. Because you don't want to buy a landlocked property, a property without an entrance and without an exit. Most of the time, I see people who buy a land somewhere in the middle of the woods. They don't even know how to access the land because proper due diligence was not done. You need to ask for the survey, the most recent survey. When you take the survey, take it to the local county or the city office and check to make sure that survey is actually authentic, that what they are selling to you is actually the boundaries, the metes and bounds, the boundaries of that land. So make sure. Number three, always check on what we call the deed and restrictive covenants. Most of the time, or the HOA ordinances. Most of the time when you buy land, if it's a community that has a homeowners association that has some deed restrictions, they will tell you, oh, in this land, you cannot do X, you cannot do Y. You cannot keep cows here, you cannot put a garden. If you're building a house, the house cannot be more than 2,500 square foot. If you're building a house, the house should not, the elevation taller should not be more taller than this height. So you want to make sure, because most properties, they have deed restrictions or restrictive covenants. You have to make sure you ask for those papers. They are very boring papers, very long papers. You want to read them. If you want to pay an attorney some extra couple of dollars, pay that attorney. Let them go through those deed restrictive covenants and tell you what you can do and what you cannot do. It is very, very important. Because when you fail to do this, that's when you always find yourselves in problems. Always find out the properties around. What are they being used for? What are the projected use? If you go to the county office, or you can do a simple, what we call an environmental assessment in that property. It's going to tell you what is coming, what is around. Because you don't want to buy a property and tomorrow you find out on the street is they have a welding manufacturing company with noise. You don't want to find out that the neighbor who's next to you is a cow breeding or a horse breeding company. You need to know what's around you. And sometimes the best way to know what's around you is to talk to the neighbors. Just go there one afternoon, tell the neighbors, hey, I'm looking to buy this property here. What do you know about this property? Why do you think the owner is selling this property? In this area, do you people have electricity? Do you have water? What are the city limits? What are some of the issues that you think you're having in this area staying here? People are very honest. They will talk to you honestly and they will tell you everything. And these are the issues that the seller will never tell you. Always do your due diligence. It is very, very important. Another thing you need to find out about the flood zone and flood elevation. Those are two things. Is the area in the flood zone? How about the flood elevation? Because you have flood elevation A, B, C, and X. If you're in flood elevation A, what that means is you will have to pay very high for flood insurance. You pay flood insurance, and you also have to pay property insurance. Elevation B, elevation C, elevation X. That's why sometimes you need to go to the county, you need to go to the city and check when it comes to their flood ordinances, what we call flood elevation. So once you understand the flood elevation, then you can build your house up to that point, your foundation or whatever, the basement, before putting the house. So flood zone and the flood elevation is very important because it has a direct relationship with how much you pay for flood insurance and your homeowner's insurance. Another important thing you need to worry about, if you see here in this property, you see trees, so many trees. Don't just think you buy land with trees and just come down and fall down the trees and make plank and sell the trees. No. Most cities, they have what they call tree ordinances. So make sure you go to that local county or to the city and you ask them, what are the tree ordinances in this area? Because the tree ordinance is a document that will tell you how, when, and what to do with trees in your property. They will tell you how to dispose of them. They will tell you the cost and what to do with them. And sometimes you find yourself, when you buy land, just falling down the trees, and then the city send you a letter and give you a fine. Say, oh no, you failed to follow the county or the city tree ordinance. Make sure you go to the county. Ask them about the tree ordinance. Also, on your contract, make sure the water rights and the mineral rights in that property is transferred over to you. Because you may find yourself in a situation where you buy a property, but the water rights and the mineral rights are still retained by someone else. Or you don't want to buy your property and tomorrow somebody's coming to your property saying that they have rights to the water in your property. You want to make sure that the water rights and the mineral rights are transferred all to you. So you don't be in your house and tomorrow somebody come and tell you they need to dig under your home because of some minerals. No. On most contracts, on most land contracts, make sure that the water and the mineral rights are transferred to you. The last thing you want to find out on that property, does it have water? Does it have a sewer? Can you dig a well? If the property don't have water, if you don't have a sewer, most of the times, all right, then you need to go to the city or the county, go to the environmental office and tell them you want to have a sewer in that property. What they will do, they will come and do what we call a percolation test. We call it in short form a PEG test. A PEG test is a test that is done to determine the water absorption level for your land. Because if the water absorption level is not sufficient enough to hold a sewer, then you cannot put a regular sewer. You can still put a sewer, but what you have to do, you have to spend about 3 times the money, 30, 40,000, to get a hydraulic system to get you an artificial sewer for your home. So it's very important. Don't just see land and buy. Land has due diligence, and the more you take your time and do your due diligence on land, the more you'll be sure on the return on your investment. I've seen so many people buy land and abandon them because they can't do nothing with the land. Yes. What is your intended use? What do you want to use that land for? What is the land zoned for? Is it zoned for commercial? Is it zoned for residential? Is it zoned for recreation? What do you want to do with that land? It's very important. Because most of the time we find out that people buy land and found out that, oh, this land is zoned for commercial, but then they want to do a residential property. They want to build a school. And when they go to the county to go apply at the county to change the zoning, what the county or the city, what they do, they send a letter to everybody in the community and tell them, hey, look what, there's something about to happen in the neighborhood. They're going to build a soccer field here. by this neighborhood. On this day, we'll have a hearing. If you have any concerns, please be at the hearing so we can listen to this case. Because the people who want to do that project, they'll be here. And on that day, you go to the city hall and you find out the whole neighborhood is there. And they say, no, we don't want a soccer field around here. But guess what? You just spent money and bought the land without doing your due diligence. You wanted to build an apartment complex. You just spent money, bought the land for the apartment complex, and then you find out the city, that land cannot be rezoned. So please, when it comes to land, do your due diligence. And if you need us, we're a phone call away. C2C Mentors. No one does it better. Reporting live from Rosenberg. Boom!